Welcome to Sterling Insights, Stand Out and Supercharge Your Assets, the go-to podcast for financial advisors aiming to grow their assets under management, stand out in a crowded market, and retain assets nearly forever. Are you advising high net worth clients who own appreciated capital assets? Do you want to help them sell without losing a quarter, a third, or even more of their hard-earned profits to capital gains taxes? Then this podcast is tailored for you. Each episode brings you the latest strategies and expert advice from leading financial advisors, seasoned attorneys, and experienced CPAs. Learn how to maximize your clients' wealth, minimize their taxes, and supercharge your advisory practice with actionable insights. Join us on Sterling Insights, Stand Out and Supercharge Your Assets, where you'll gain the knowledge and tools to set yourself apart and achieve unparalleled success in wealth management. Subscribe now and empower your practice for a brighter, more prosperous future.
My name is Richard Robb. I'm a principal of Capital Management Partners. We are a broad-based financial planning and investment counseling firm. I'm interviewing today a fellow cycling friend named Steve Fafel. Steve is a CPA, lives in Swampscott, Massachusetts, just north of Boston, and works out of an office in Swampscott. Steve, why don't you further introduce yourself and your practice?
So I am the owner and CPA at Leonard Fafel CPA. I joined here about 15 years ago after leaving large CPA firms, joined my father's practice that he had founded back in the mid-90s. And I took over exclusively about 5 years ago. And we are a practice that mainly focuses on taxes and bookkeeping for individuals and small businesses.
Terrific. So, Steve, I'm going to just run down a set of questions here that'll provide a little insight into your thinking and evolution and so forth in your profession. So, I guess the first question is, what caused you to become an accountant? And I guess it's a difficult field. We're not finding a lot of newbies entering the profession. What caused you to enter it?
So I actually had no desire to become a CPA growing up. I looked at the way my father worked during tax season when I was younger, and I said, I have no desire to go into that profession. I actually started college as a biomedical engineering major. It took me a semester to figure out I wasn't going to do that. And on a whim, I took a minor in finance. And the first class was an accounting class, Accounting 101. I used to stay up late at night studying the debits and credits. And my father actually bought the same book at the time that I was studying for Accounting 101. And he and I would go over the questions and the textbook. And I really enjoyed the subject matter. And I did great in the class. Actually had a fantastic professor who was a partner at Coopers and Lybrand at the time. And it just got me really interested in that, in the class and accounting in particular. I actually ended up transferring from Syracuse, where I was at the time, to Bentley and pursued accounting, stayed on, got my master's in taxation, which is where I wanted to focus in the tax area, and eventually went on to become a tax accountant.
Did you think, Steve, about taking your skills and getting involved with banking, investment banking, law, and so forth? What caused you to pursue this path that you were so reluctant about when you were younger?
So it was interesting because I'd done an internship at Eaton Vance between my junior and senior year in college. And I actually had thought about going to the mutual fund area because of the experience at Eaton Vance. But I really never got into that area of the finance. I don't think I actually got the full experience because I was more in the accounting department than going into the finance side. And I think from all the years of seeing what the investments were involved in, with people I worked with at trading, I actually did an audit on a trading floor. It was always like stocks and bonds and all that area. It was more confusing. I could find something more concrete in tax. Although there's gray areas of tax, there was something about it was more black and white than the speculation of stocks and investments. So even though there is the gray area and there's things you move about in the tax area and try to work with clients and projecting. There's more something kind of solid about it that I could understand, as opposed to going into the finance, the stocks, and trying to figure out, okay, what might go up, might go down. And that's what kept me in the tax and accounting area.
I think where we serve people from different perspectives, Steve, you feel like you're making a real contribution to society and to people's lives. How do you feel at the end of each day?
So that's an interesting question, because I feel that there are definitely people who will come in, as clients come in, and they're angry at you because they have to pay taxes. And I know that's what you get with the territory. People get angry at you because they can't get angry at their local politician, because they're the ones who obviously write the tax laws. But there are times when a client will come in with a situation that they don't understand. It could be that they got an IRS notice, or they're selling a piece of property, or they're going through some other type of transaction, and they really need just help. They don't understand the tax part of the equation. And sitting down with them, working through it, helping to explain it in layman's terms, I think that's the part of the profession that really is enjoyable, when you kind of see that light bulb flick on in somebody's brain and they kind of get it, even though there's the tax code and there's all that involved. When I can explain it to somebody and they get it, and you also see that you're helping somebody understand it as well, and helping them navigate through a complex tax situation, I think that's the part of it that is really enjoyable. Every once in a while, I'll get letters from clients saying, I really appreciate what you've done for me during the year. And those are few and far between. You obviously get the people who complain more than the thank yous, but it's the ones who are like, you really helped me and really appreciate what you've done for me over the years. Those are the ones that really stick at the end of the day.
Did your father offer you a job? Did you say, hey, Dad, let me jump in? How did that work? And then what were some positive moments and some negative moments of working with your dad?
So it was kind of interesting. I was at the point in my career where I was ready to transition out of the large CPA firms. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. I actually, in the earlier days, the business wasn't ready to sustain the two of us. So I actually did a number of jobs with other individuals I worked with, consulting with them. And in the meantime, I was doing networking, both with other CPAs, financial professionals, lawyers, and then going to networking events. Over the years, like a matter of 3-4 year period, I was able to really help grow the business at the same time that I was doing this other consulting work, and eventually was able to get to the point where the two of us could work exclusively in the business. And now it's just become its own real entity where, we were able to work together. And then I was able to take it over in the last few years. Unfortunately, my father passed away at the beginning of this year, and I really took that over as my own, as well, what he used to call it. This business was his baby, and I've now taken it on as my kind of quote unquote baby.
Very cool. Talk about client services you provide, Steve. Do you have an ideal client? Are you broad-based? Do you have some niches? What's an ideal scenario?
Our main focus is on individuals, small businesses, and that obviously can encompass a number of different areas, but we mainly focus on individuals that have a little more complex situations. We want clients that have a little more meat in the bone on their tax return. So they might have rental properties, they might have Schedule Cs, like sole proprietorship. They're individuals that have investments, so that we have some planning we can do with them as well. Because we don't want to just be we don't want to be a firm that just does a return and then sees the client next year. We want to be able to do planning with clients throughout the year, because we think that's important. Because taxes, yes, they do happen just in the January through April timeframe. But afterwards, during the year, there's a lot of planning that takes place where clients do sell real estate. They do call about estimated taxes. They're doing transactions throughout the year. So we want to be able to have clients that we can really work with throughout the year. In terms of our small businesses, we don't necessarily focus in any one particular industry. By nature, we've had clients that have been in construction, some small restaurants, some service industries, but it really kind of runs the gamut. But we mainly focus on the small S corporations and partnerships. When I was in public accounting working in large CPA firms, that's where you deal with the multi-state C corporations. That's not what I'm equipped to handle anymore, just because that's more their niche.
How do people find you, or what causes someone to leave one tax preparer to go to you, Steve? Yeah, what's going on with business development? How do people find you? How do you find them?
So very interesting. The profession has definitely changed over the past 5 years or so, and we do very little, if any, advertising. It frankly not necessary or hasn't been necessary over the past few years. We get a number of referrals through other CPA firms, larger CPA firms that don't have the capacity to handle certain clients or don't want clients in a certain price range. So a number of CPAs that I've worked with in the past have referred clients. We get clients through financial planners such as yourself that we work with, lawyers, whether that's litigation attorneys, tax controversy attorneys that we work with. Word of mouth through existing clients has been a huge driver of our current client base. We do get some that will come in through the internet who see our website. And then we have some who unfortunately will say, my accountant passed away, my accountant retired, my accountant just closed up shop, and I'm looking for somebody new. And that's been a huge driver for the business over the past few years.
Is there a commonality among the more sophisticated returns that you deal with, Steve? Is it depreciation? Is it multi-state? What are some of the things you commonly deal with that are on the more complex side?
So I'd say on the more complex side, we do see a lot of clients that will have businesses, real estate, and when they're dealing in real estate, they might have real estate they've rented out that might be personal and rental at the same time, or they might have a number of rentals at once. And some of those could be in different states. Rarely do we see clients that are filing in multiple states unless they've worked in a few different states. But a lot of times it's more the businesses, the rental properties. A lot of times it's figuring out the best way to file in terms of should clients file married filing jointly versus married filing married filing separate. Should they have a dependent file with them or a dependent file on their own in terms of tuition deductions? Another complex thing that obviously comes up is with planning, what they should do in terms of investments. And obviously the big thing that's coming up is with the new tax law that's projected to come out. A lot of clients will ask about that. What should I do? How should I plan for that? And unfortunately, I tell clients I don't know what's going to happen until the ink is dry, because I can tell you what I think is going to happen, but all that could change and when the ink is actually dry and the signatures are signed. So we kind of hold off because we know the here and now. One of the things I know you and I have discussed is a number of clients will ask, should I convert to Roth IRAs? And I will guide them on the tax side, but I would like to work in conjunction with someone like yourself, because you have the modeling to do what's going to happen if they have to do a Roth conversion and pay the taxes on that. What's going to happen in the future in terms of how are they going to recover the what they have to pay in taxes in the future when they have to make up what they're going to lose on the tax side of it. So those are kind of the more the modeling things, and that's like the unknown. That gets complex in terms of the not knowing and not having like that the crystal ball.
I'm trying to think, Steve, there's mistakes we can all make in various regards. Is there any, we all have professional insurance and so forth, but is there any, what's the potential for mistakes and what kind of mistakes can be made? Is there interpretive things? How much to push the code towards some angle? Is that a fair question?
So we do get clients that will come in and they'll say, do I have to report XYZ on my Schedule C, which is business income? And we always tell clients tax evasion is illegal. You'll go to jail for that. Tax avoidance that's what we practice in. You never should pay more taxes than you're required to. And that was one of the first things I actually learned in my master's program. Now, what's interesting is we rely on what the clients give us for information. So there's a lot of times where we get information from clients and sometimes it's not all the information, or we think we got something from a client, it wasn't the right information, and things will happen there. So communication is very important, obviously, between ourselves and the client, but there's always times where there's communication breakdown and we'll miss something, the client will miss something. That's why a lot of times we send drafts to clients, but definitely mistakes happen along the way, and we try to do the best to rectify those situations, but definitely the mistakes do happen, and we try first to rectify them, and then if we can, we see how we can make it right with the client. Because you always, especially if it's a good client, you want a happy client and them to stay with you long term.
What are the challenges out there, Steve, you're facing? And AI is certainly becoming a known force in a lot of industries and so forth. Is AI a threat, or what are some of the other challenges that you might face with? And I guess I mean that in terms of just maintaining the need for your role. Is there a...
So there's been a lot of talk about AI and how it's going to replace our jobs and if that's going to be the future. And I think the industry as a whole sees AI as currently as more of assistive as opposed to replacement, because there's so many judgment calls that we make currently when we're dealing with clients that right now we see it as almost impossible for AI to replace those judgment calls, especially as well as the human emotion of the job. So I think it'd be difficult if a client comes in and sits down with us and wants to go through different scenarios and wants to get a feel for things. The AI isn't going to recognize that human emotion, but what it's going to do is allow us to be a little more adaptive and allow us to script out different scenarios for projections, allow us to model things a little easier than we currently are able to. It's kind of funny because I think AI is built into a number of things we use now. We just don't realize it. So like data mining, the projections, doing different projections a lot easier. I think that's been built in for a number of years and we've been using it. We just kind of don't realize it. It's just kind of going to another level at the moment.
I think in terms of some commonalities that you and I have in our respective firms and so forth, it's our company. We have some degree of control. What is it you like best? We know the challenges of the tax season, but is there something that would cause you to motivate some young person to pursue this career, Steve, or pursue a small practice? What do you like best about your work?
The best part is, far and away, is dealing with clients that are going through a complex transaction and walking them through it and seeing the end result. And I think that's the perception some people have, is that all you're doing is pulling numbers from one page and putting it on a return. But that's not really what we do. There's a lot of thought involved in it, and there's a lot of planning involved. So I think the best part about the job is the planning. And when you see that, when you do planning with a client and it comes to fruition at the end of the day, I really think that that's the best part of the job, is working through a whole scenario with a client and then showing them the outcome of it and them seeing, oh my gosh, you really walked me through this whole scenario, which seemed really complex and I didn't understand it. And we came out to the result we wanted, or you got me to the point where I now understand what took place. I think that's the part that's really, it provides me joy because it's, number one, it's what I learn and what I really come in day after day for is to kind of do the heavy lifting, because I could easily come in here and just put numbers on a page and call it a day, but it's really the more thoughtful, really thinking stuff that is more enjoyable when it comes down to it.
Terrific. So, Steve, why don't you lay out how we find you, your website, your address, and your phone number?
So we are located at 530 Loring Ave, Suite 102 in Salem, Mass. Phone number is 978-741-0095. And our website is www.fafelcpa.com.
Steve, I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Sterling Insights. Stand out and supercharge your assets, where we provide the info you need from successful leading financial advisors, lawyers, and CPAs. Your hosts, Roger and Catherine Silk, invite you to learn more about Sterling Foundation Management by visiting sterlingfoundations.com.